Is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Hour 2 OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. We got Confirm or Deny later in the hour. Mike Johnson will join us here in a moment. Florida, Carolina tonight. That happened quickly. And
one day in
quick
between.
turnaround.
One day in between. That's the thing. Like, I would have been in a suit. If the Leafs won Game 7, I'd be going down there tonight. And that's what ultimately sucks more than anything is that the playoffs, like it was a month because they got to Game 7 in the second round. It's so unique. It's so awesome. It's such a fresh, incredible experience for any fan. And I'm sure this applies in a lot of different markets. But in Toronto, when the Leafs are playing in the playoffs, it's so awesome. Like, it's just awesome to watch the games, talk about them, whether they win or lose. Everyone's buzzing. Everyone's, picking away at it. And, that's something you miss more than anything on the outside looking in is like, taking my kids to school. I see Markov jerseys and Tucker jerseys and Gilmore and Matthews and Marner, and everyone's got flags and hats and everyone walking like the crossing guards. Like, you think they're going to win tonight?
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Does the air come out of it, though?
Just like that. It's like, we'll see you in October.
My question is, do the flags come off immediately? I didn't see.
Oh, yeah, immediately. Immediately
flag
they
off
come
the
down.
car immediately.
I think so, yeah.
I mean,
think so.
I didn't like, you talked about it earlier, no use in beating a dead horse, but it's like, I didn't like there was people burning jerseys.
That's so
there was stuff
stupid.
like, I
that's
saw
trying
that
to go viral.
I had to deal with it today. One of my good buddies, Joe, he called me and he goes, "What do I do now?" I go, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You chew on it like everybody does, whether it's media, fan base, and you chew on it and say, this sucks. Maybe I want to cheer for another team. And then as soon as training camp comes around, you'll be right back on the horse. You'll be right back in. You'll be sucked back in. That's what you do. That's what everyone does."
That speaks to, I think, an important element here of why I do think it would be smart from a business standpoint and a team building standpoint to freshen up the script, right? Because that's what this is. What you're speaking of is this is entertainment. It's a drama series.
But 2 games in a row, their last 2 home games were torture, and they booed them off the ice, and they booed one player off the ice. And if you came back and said, we're throwing that at you again, I don't care what perspective you're looking at it, business, sports, it would be crazy.
It would be. Yet you just proved what they know is they'll just come back in October. And that's the point is that they're still going to have the packed houses and there's still going to be a lot of buildup. And when they make the playoffs next year, everyone's going to get the flags out again and be like, I want to believe, because why would you not want to live in that existence?
Are they going to say what we said or what people said last year and maybe the year before? I don't remember, but specifically this year feels different.
Well, no, because here's why I think the reason why I do think that existed.
Right.
Was more because Craig Berube than anyone else.
Right.
Berube was new. He was different. People were picking up
a little bit, yeah.
Pat Quinn and Pat Burns vibes. Like, here's this guy, tough as nails. Everyone loves him. The way he speaks, the way he's composed. I think Berube represented that. That's over after your rookie season. That doesn't, Berube's done what he's done. He'll continue to do what he's doing. You're not going to play the new coach bump card anymore because it's been played.
Right.
So I don't. And listen, they brought in Carlo, they brought in Tanev, they brought in Ekman Larson, Stolars. Like, there were big, tangible pieces that were different this year.
Agreed.
But ultimately, I do think in order, like, if you're a script writer, that's what I'm saying here. If you work for Crave and you're writing a show, sometimes you got to just, move off characters.
Well, the template is
like you got to have a different feel. And the only way to really have a different feel is for 1 or 2 of the main guys to leave. Yeah. They have to. They have to. And again, I'm not predicting they will based on what I said last hour. I think they probably will, but I'm not convinced they will. But I think they should. I think from a simply selling your product standpoint and trying to reach a new level, you just can't consistently do what you're doing here.
Dude, if I was I don't know. If I was in charge of that operation, I would literally be open to some very creative options with a lot of different things.
How far would you go? Would every player be on the table?
I don't know about everybody, but like as drastic as you could do, I would be looking into it. I don't know.
So what is your interpretation of Tavares telling the media that he just spoke with Tree Living in Berube and he's very optimistic he'll be back next year?
I don't understand. Look, he's been a great soldier. He's been a model citizen. He's put up points. But if you bring the personality, it's still John Tavares. He's still going to be on. He's still going to want to be on the number one power play. He did score 38 goals last year. You know what? That's a good regular. It's a great regular season.
Yeah, it is.
To rip home 38 at that age, that's great. But did anybody watch his performance the last 3 games of that series? He had a couple around the net goals in the third game, and then after that, he could not make a play.
Yeah,
he could not get through the neutral zone. He could not get the puck back, and he could not make a play. So what about that would you say, if I'm looking for this, I got to have John Tavares back? And that's not a hot take. That is a fact of what happened out on the ice.
yes.
That is a fact that happened out on the ice. So how could you watch that and say, got to bring him back? That's insanity. It's insanity.
Furthermore, it'll be a year older. It'll be 35
Yes,
to
the
start
wheels
next
come
season.
off like that when you're that age.
Yeah.
Now, you're right. I'm not trying to be contrarian.
Try to sell me on it. Go for it.
I'm not trying to sell you. I'm saying we don't know what he's willing to play for next year financially and
But
term.
you're saying it doesn't matter if you wouldn't take him for $1. Like you're saying the change is more important than the salary
The
cap.
change of players and personalities need to change.
I
if
totally agree.
And if the two guys at the top, Marner or Matthews and Nylander, are still going to be here, and those two personalities are very similar, their approach and what
Yeah.
they do,
Yeah.
then the other guys underneath it who have you had the opportunity to step away from and say, we've got to bring in different personalities.
Yeah, no,
the coach said it. This is about a mindset. You change the mindset and bring in different players and
Yes.
hope that it works.
And it doesn't have to be this summer. Ideally, it does.
Right.
But if you commit to John for 3 or 4 years,
Are you
then you're
kidding?
But I'm
No
let me
way,
finish my
man.
point. What I'm
No
saying is,
way.
there's no getting out of that.
Yes.
Like John, because what is John's going to probably demand? Which again, they don't have to give him, but he probably demand a no movement, a no trade. And if you're going to commit to him, they're probably going to give it to him.
Right.
So that's the thing. It's, and that is another thing that's important to point out here, because Leaf fans are like, how do you replace this guy? Doesn't mean it happens on July 1st. Might happen at the trade deadline next year or the year after that. It doesn't. It's once you commit to these guys, you're in.
right.
You're stuck in terms of the contract commitment.
I think there's other. We're talking about the core 4, which rightfully so, but we're also like what is Max Domi's deal? What is Max Domi's got 3 more years, right? Like I didn't really love his play, and he's farther down.
No.
You've got Yarncroke, I believe, for another year. You've got
David Camp.
You've got there's other players that need to be dealt with as well. And the only reason I'm saying that is because every dollar counts. That's what I'm saying. If Marner leaves, we'll call it $11 million. If Tavares comes off the books, there's another 11. There's 22. The cap's going up. Yes, Matthew Nyes needs an extension. I look at it. If you're going to reshape things, every dollar is going to be important. And, there's some guys you like and go, I want to move forward with this. Other guys you go, I might need a change. And again, we're sitting there picking at the top 4, and rightfully so. But there's other guys that didn't, that were
absolutely.
passengers as well.
Now, you got to fill out a team.
Yes.
So like the idea that Domi's going to go and Yarncroke's going to go and Camp's going to.
I'm not saying they have to. I'm saying if everything's on the table, everything's on the table.
Yes, it should be. And that's where, again, the elephant in the room, I think Morgan Riley has to come into the forefront.
Well,
Yeah, we all love Mo. That's not about that. It's the guy, he's been here for 12 years. He's as connected to the history as anyone. He had the worst season of his career this year. He really struggled in Game 7. They all did. But he really, really struggled. Like him and Carlo really struggled.
Yeah.
And, you're committed to everyone else. Tanev and McCabe, I thought McCabe, his play with the puck was wild to witness in Game 7. But
sorry to interrupt. The one thing that I noticed, and nobody talked, it's interesting. You listen to Florida players talk, and then you listen to the Leaf players talk. The Leaf players just talked about we didn't have it, and passengers and that. Panther players were like, we had a system, we executed this, we had our
Puck
F3
movement, changes.
There was like, they could tell you exactly what they did from a technical standpoint, where I'm hoping the Leafs players would go, yeah, they were on top of us. They like, because there was nobody that gave us an explanation other than, yeah, we just had some passengers. We seen, I'm like,
yeah. Well, even Berube today just kept saying, like, well, you got to trust your structure. What is the
Austin
structure?
Matthews even said we weren't all on the same page. I thought that was
What the hell does that
insane
even
to
mean?
say.
If there's only one thing that could mean is some guys just went out there and said, I don't care what happens tonight. That's all that could mean.
Not being on the same page in a Game 7
Who's
where you've
responsible
played
for
the
that?
same. Well, the players ultimately, because they execute what's going on. Greg Berube didn't just draw a question mark on the board and go, we're not sure what we're going to do tonight.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to play. They know how to exit the zone. They know how to how they want to play in the neutral zone. How they have set plays off draws. Like, if anything, the Toronto Maple Leafs are overcoached in certain areas because they've got 150 people that work at that organization.
Jamie, that's what the fans that went into the building, they cannot deal with. If you're going to go down, I think people could have gone to work the next day or spent the holiday and said, you know what? They scratched and they clawed and they fought and it was a bounce and that's all we can do and that's life and that's hockey. But to have those guys perform like that time after time in these critical games where it's not close and they don't show up, that's what it makes them sick. They're like, this is just our city, and that's what we get. Like, that performance, it's gut-wrenching.
I know, and this is singling out, and I understand he was at the end of the shift and all of that, but that Nylander drive-by, where he's been out there for $1.45, goes for a little drive-by.
Watching that live was...
It was 1-0 at that point.
Take a piece of somebody. Step out of your comfort zone and get a chunk of somebody.
Where did he go when he went out of the screen
went for a
to
change.
the bench?
No, he went for a change, yeah.
Because they had been trapped out there, and I understand the context of it. But I'll tell you what, those Florida Panther players that would get caught out there, and if they were on their way to the bench and somebody, a Leaf player was there, they'll take a piece of you.
Yes.
That was the difference. And it's just a small detail. So I come back to it, and there's just things that they almost, in Game 5 and Game 7, they looked paralyzed. They looked like they were having outer body experiences going, I'm watching myself play, but I'm not there. And you talked about it, McCabe handling the puck, Carlo handling the puck. Like, they needed somebody to... Seth Jones, he looked like Bobby Orr.
He was actually Bobby
unbelievable.
Orr. He played so well.
He was great, but Ekblad plays like that. They've got a 3-pack like Chicago, where you've got Ekblad, Jones, and Forsling might be the best player out of all of them when it comes to defensive play. Like, that was Hjalmarsson, Seabrook, and Keith.
Yeah, you're right.
And in this defensive core, very good defensively. That poor Chris Tanev, you see that stat where he got hit 120 times or something in the playoffs? He was battling for his life, running for his life back there every night, blocking shots, doing everything.
And that's maybe a different angle to all this. We're all talking about what they should do and who should come back. Like, when you take the money off of Tavares and Mitch Marner, like, it can bring a different look, which we just talked about, of depth.
Right.
Like, 2 players instead of 1.
Yes.
And maybe have that the different approach.
Yeah, and
like
fill out your lineup.
There was big talk forever about not a team winning the Stanley Cup with a guy with one guy in double-digit numbers. And finally, Jack Eichel broke that code because he was the first guy making $10 million to win a Stanley Cup, let alone 4.
Well, he's 10 on the nose. Barkov's 10 on the nose. Bob, I think, is 10 on the nose. Yeah. If it's being very selective, but if you push it to like 10.5 and up, never happened. Right. Yet the Leafs have 4.
There you go. So the discussion forever was one guy at 10, let alone 4.
It gives perspective as to, like I say, it was interesting, and I know everyone's emotional about it, but Florida was very concise with how they felt they beat the Leafs. On the Leafs side, like, they looked overwhelmed. Like, listen to Austin Matthews. Like, he was just like, yeah, we just had too many passengers. Like, now I'm not expecting him to do a technical breakdown and say, hey, their F3
Here's
was
a
unbelievable.
Whiteboard,
But, they have to know in their heart, like, how Florida was all over them.
If that was directed at one player, they got another problem on their hands too. Like if there
Yeah.
was somebody where everybody was like, because guys sit and they have beers and they talk, where it's like, can you believe what he was doing? If that's just another problem.
Yeah, well, that could be concerning because it could be someone that's on term. It may not. It may be someone that's about to leave.
Yeah.
Matthews addressed his injury issue today and said he injured it in training camp, and it was a really tough year. Wouldn't reveal what it was, which I still don't understand his reasoning behind. I get that he has the right to not, and he's very, very. I don't even know how to express this. Like he's almost he's aggravated by the idea that someone would ask him or suggest that maybe he should reveal something, or furthermore ask him, which they did today, following up like just out of curiosity, why won't you reveal what your injury is?
Well, that's concerning because
And he's like, because I can. Like it was almost like a how dare you? And it's like if this thing happened 6 months ago, and you don't play again for 4 more months, what is the purpose of not revealing what happened?
you know what my interpretation of it scares me? That's chronic. That's something that's not going away, and he might have to play with that, or it might just. I don't know how you feel about that, because if somebody hurts their back or their groin or whatever, it's like.
Now, he did the same thing against last year after the Boston
I know,
series. Wouldn't reveal something,
but.
That's
who
just
knows?
the way he
Maybe
is about that. Why he cares about it, I have no idea.
That might be the same injury. We don't know.
yeah, no, I get
that's
it,
my
but
point is
like there has to be some reasoning, like because he's the only guy that I can think of that profile, especially like this was a constant story. Like I went to Germany during the season.
Right.
Like everyone's been talking about, and clearly he was banged up, and he admitted to that. Like he was fighting through it. He said it was a tough year.
Yeah.
That was very evident. And you look at his production; it was very evident.
Yes.
And I credit him for battling and fighting. And he played all the time
Yes.
for the most part.
Yeah, and
But
he didn't
if
use that as an excuse.
He
either.
didn't. He didn't use it as an excuse. He played, and yet at the end of, he said he believes he'll be 100% with time and rest. Well, then why didn't he take time and rest after the training camp?
Right.
Like if in 4 months you'll be 100% and you got hurt in September, why didn't you take the 4 months during the season?
Well, and
If it's not surgery,
go a step further, why'd you play in the Four Nations phase?
well, exactly. Like if you knew all year I'm struggling, I'm fighting it.
like that's the other thing. Like that's an elephant in the room.
We're just speculating now, though, because we have no idea.
But
Yeah,
this
no,
is
he's
what
not
he could end the speculation if he told everybody what it is. Like Stolarz came out and said, "Yeah, concussion." You know, other people are always like, "Yeah, I got this, I got that." Like I don't understand what the big secret is with him.
Unless
I don't
it's
get the
chronic.
benefit. Okay, but if it is chronic, what is that? So you think he's guarding from people
because if
saying
he
you're
has-
going to have an issue the rest of your career?
If he has if he has an injury that they're hoping this offseason will fix or whatever, who knows if he needs surgery? Again, I
Well,
don't
he
wanna
said he doesn't
speculate.
need surgery.
I don't want to speculate. My point being is if this is something that he might have to battle the rest of his career, why come out and say it? Because now all of a sudden we're looking at it. Other teams are looking at it. And if it's a vulnerable spot, if it's a shoulder, if it's a
I would just
know.
lie about it and say, you know what, my ankle's all jacked up. That's what it is. Seriously,
Right.
it gets
Yeah,
the
I
flies
mean-
off. It's like I got my ankles all jacked up and I got to work on it in the summer. It's nowhere close to your ankle.
You could do that. I mean, no one's under oath here.
well, I know, but it's just
That keeps the flies off. My ankle's kind of
Yeah.
jacked up, and
I
gotta
just
work
found
on
it. I don't know.
That's
I
just-
don't.
that's
I don't,
him. That's-
I understand it's
Yeah.
and yes, he has the right to keep it.
He
To,
does.
I get it. I'm not disputing it. I'm just saying in a sport where almost famously people gloat about, hey, I fought through this.
yes, Draisaitl played with a
and
broken
I
thumb
had this, and
broken ribs.
Bergeron had a lung that collapsed,
Yeah.
and you know he's got an opportunity after a season-long story about this and speculation running wild. Not saying anything, and
years
I'm
in a
not even
row.
going to tell you why I'm not going to tell you.
Right. That's 2 years in a row,
Yes.
though, that this guy has been, at the year-end press conference having to talk about an injury.
An injury that,
and doesn't want to share with
yeah.
you. So
which-
that is concerning as well because he's a guy that, big body that gets nicked up. Like
well,
that's-
the Leafs know what's going on,
Of
and
course
ultimately
they do.
that's what's important.
yes, and
but-
if he can be 100%, that's all you can hope
That's
for.
all you ask for, and that's what people expect. And you take him at his word that he will be.
100%. Like I agree.
But if he's not willing to reveal anything, then speculation's going to run wild. Then
Of course.
he can't be upset about that. It's Austin Matthews.
I know, but
It's a huge story all year. All right, I got some confirm or denies we'll get to. We'll catch up with Johnny, get Mike Johnson's take on all this. CJ coming up. Mark Giordano still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Johnson coming up here in a moment. CJ later this afternoon. Gio will join us. We'll get to something to chew on as well. And we haven't even mentioned, what else has been going on out in the sports world. My boy, Scotty Scheffler. How about Scotty Scheffler running away with the PGA like I said he would?
Dude, that was the worst tournament atmosphere-wise I've ever watched in my life.
Of all time. The build-up, everything. It was terrible.
Even the crowd, I don't know what it was. It was like, did they not want to be there? It was like they were like a tee-off on the first hole. They'd be like...
Yeah, it was weird.
Dude, if that was in like Boston or the Northeast, people would be going nuts after every tee ball. It was just, it had no juice.
Yeah, it was weird, man. It was weird to witness the whole thing. And then even like, I thought, okay, we got a back nine here when Rahm and Scheffler were tied. And then all of a sudden Rahm just fell apart and Scheffler takes off and he wins by 6 strokes. But anyway, that's 3 majors for him. And he's halfway to the career slam.
I told you after round 1 or 2 where he had like his B game and he was atop the leaderboard. I was like, it's over, man. He's going to slaughter those guys. And he did.
Yeah, he did. He did. All right, more on that. We'll confirm or deny a little bit later on. Canada's rolling over at the Worlds, and here we've got 1 Canadian team left. How many times do we ask that question? How many Canadian teams in the conference final?
We had a zillion Jerry's win the cup. Look how many shots we have. You were so confident.
Well, I was jacked for multiple teams.
We were 3 for 8.
Yes.
Last week.
Yes.
We were pumping up an all-Canadian final. We had all kinds of love.
Everything. And now it's just Edmonton. The last team standing in Canada is the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, Johnny called it at the start of the year, didn't he?
The Oilers to win the cup, I believe. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Here's Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst. Look at you calling the Oilers.
Well, I appreciate that, Noodles. Bring that back. To be fair, I didn't call them to win at the start of the playoffs, but at the start of the regular season, I did. So I flip-flopped around. But, yeah, I mean, I guess we're not surprised that we end ourselves here. I mean, I don't think the betting line, I don't think Toronto was the favorite. I don't think Winnipeg was the favorite. I do think Edmonton was the favorite. So we probably shouldn't be surprised that we find ourselves here.
I guess not.
How surprised were you?
Not.
How surprised were you to witness that the other night? That type of ass kicking.
I was surprised, Noodles. I was. I mean, after Game 5, you thought, okay, well, that was clearly the moment. But then they responded with Game 6, and you're thinking it's going to be okay because they've worked through whatever. And at some point, home ice is supposed to be an advantage. It's supposed to help you, not hinder you. And to lose. And I said this to you guys the day of the game. To lose is going to be, you can do a lot of things right and still lose. That's the nature of the sport. But to lose the way they did, that I did not see coming. That is what is particularly alarming. When Craig Berube says it's in their head, I think he's saying what we all sort of think. Like at this point, it's in their head that they can't get themselves to a spot in a clutch pressure game to play their best hockey. And then it looks like that, and they're playing a really good team, and they get pounded. It's tough. Now, it turned nasty, the booing, the jerseys, and all of it, but that's not a one-year frustration. I think people kind of forget that it's 7, 8, 9 years building, especially when it's going to be directed to the guys who've been here for all that time, and that does make it a little bit different. It's not just one bad game or 2 bad games. It's sort of, this has happened 5, 6, 7 times now in these kind of games.
So if Mike Johnson is the GM and you're sitting in a room and someone says, what are you going to do to fix this roster-wise? What is your game plan?
Oh, well, the challenge, is that I don't know how good I can make my team with just money. This is my challenge. I can take Tavares at 11 and Marner at 11, take that 22, and certainly Matthew Nye is going to eat up 7 or 8 of it, but take it and spend it on other players that are available as free agents. But I don't know if I'm going to be any better off, big picture. Maybe Sam Bennett, maybe Aaron Ekblad, they're fresh. Maybe Brad Marchand, they're all Florida Panthers. I don't know if they'd want to come to Toronto. I don't know if they would do that. But I would think that Mitch Marner is going to go, and maybe Tavares comes back. Definitely would be on my terms. That's appropriate amount.
What does that mean, by the way?
Dynamic.
Mitch Marner coming back in your terms. You would actually
No, Tavares.
Marner's gone. Tavares back on my terms. Tavares is 3 years and $4.5 million a year.
Okay. Would you be? Well, let's say Mitch asked GM Mike Johnson, said, "I want to stay. Let's work a deal out." What's your response?
Oh,
What do you got for us, GM MJ?
Okay. Okay, I have to work that through because I have to change my roster other ways. And if Mitch Marner's coming back, and I could do that. I could have Mitch Marner come back, but I need another centerman, and I'd have to change the dynamic. I'd have to explore other trades. Can Morgan Riley be persuaded to go something like that? I'd have to explore other things to accommodate that because I can't have the same feeling of a team come back, and not just removing Tavares, perhaps. And I say this, make no mistake, all these players are incredible. They're super talented. They can go other places and winning. But I think what we've learned is that the collection of players together in Toronto is not going to win. So I need to change that. So if Marner wants to come back and it's not a crazy number, then I'll have to look at it, but I have to look at other ways to change my roster sort of drastically.
Yeah, I don't know if you can accomplish that, though, if he comes back.
I don't know if I can.
I don't think you can, Johnny. That's very clear now. It's not, it's not about the third line anymore. Yeah, I get it. All those things are important, but you got to start at the top. And if you're going to come, if you're going to have Austin and Willie and Mitch just keep riding this out, man, I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't know how you can expect different results.
So, Johnny,
but if Mitch Marner says, "Okay, I want to come back," and I mean, he will never do this, but he said, "I want to make $11 million." You're at that amount of money, you're not going to be able to find a good enough player to replace him. This is the dilemma. Do you have to get worse, talent-wise, skill-wise, to have a better chance of winning in the playoffs? You might have to, and that's hard for me to stomach. To say, you know what, I'm going to get worse. I'm going to get less talented players, fewer chances. Players not as good as Mitch Marner. But because I believe that in the playoffs, somehow that mix will be more capable. But I think
Johnny, the LA Kings are a great example of that.
Road, right?
The LA Kings are a great example of that. They had to grind to get in every year, but when they got in, they were unbeatable.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean
you need a team that's going to be good enough to make the playoffs.
Yes,
and then hopefully better once you get there.
Well, and what you're saying, I agree. If you're looking at 1-for-1, but maybe it's a scenario where if you're looking at Mitch Marner not being on your roster and you're looking to replace him, you don't replace him with one player. Maybe it's multiple players because you use that cap space to add to your depth so that you're not having to worry about, geez, is it Pontus Holmberg or David Kampf? We got to slide onto that left side because we don't have – that's the biggest challenge is maybe you look at your roster as a more balanced. Yes, in a vacuum, that one spot is the player that you put in there is less talented, but maybe the talent gets spread out over a 9 spot or the 12 forwards that you do have. That's if there's more balance to it, correct?
No question. You're not going to let Marner go and go get a $12 million player. There is no $12 million player out there to get. That's a free agent. You'd have to trade for someone, which is they don't have the assets to do that. So, totally noodles. You'll take that $20 million from Tavares and Marner and put it to at least 3, maybe 4 players that are different, that maybe collectively can help replace most of what Mitch Marner does during the regular season, and then maybe more than what he has done in the playoffs. The challenge is, though, so let's say we go down that road, okay? You guys are all my assistant GMs. Good job. We're going to go down the no Marner road. We're going to go down Tavares. We're going to leave the secondary decisions. We're going to spend that money on other people. Sam Bennett, obviously, would be an attractive player. I don't think he's ever had 50 points in a year. Maybe it doesn't matter. You and my assistant GMs, are we okay giving Sam Bennett $8 or $9 million a year?
Yes.
For 8 years? Or 50 points? 14 goals, 18 goals, 24 goals. Are we okay with that for what he does in the playoffs? And that's he might be one guy. Are you? And then who else is out there? Mikhail Granlund, Matt Duchene. The UFAs are not a deep group.
Right.
let alone ones that would want to come to Toronto. So this is the problem. We can just go down that road, but where are we going to go? Where are we going to end up?
Johnny, you know the only avenue to make changes is not just UFA class. Like everybody knows how to get creative and make things happen. There's always players out there.
It's also, the league doesn't end next year.
Right.
Like if you commit to Mitch for 8, that's 8 years you're committed. So maybe you don't get everyone this summer. Maybe it's a combination of this summer and next summer. Go take a look who could be available next summer. It might pique your interest.
Oh,
yeah.
Might pique
now
your
we're
interest.
talking.
Yeah, interesting.
Now listen, I can save my powder, and
Well, you're
I
saying
would go
McDavid?
anywhere for that guy.
He's one of them, but there's a lot of guys. Kaprizov next year. There's a lot of guys I believe are available next year.
Anyway,
That's the truth. I'm just saying. It's a great class potentially next year.
I wanted to float this to you guys.
Crazy.
So if you're there's three potential unrestricted free agents on Florida sitting there that probably the Leafs would covet all three. Ekblad, Brad Marchand, and Sam Bennett.
And Jamie, maybe that was part of Brad's craziness where he's like, I want to play this cool and praise the city because maybe they'll sniff.
You think he's pitching the idea of coming here? He
I
was a
think
Leaf
he's
fan growing up, apparently. I never knew that.
I saw that.
Never said that once in his life.
I think he's going back to Boston. But here's my question to the whole panel. You think they're sitting there and seeing how unbelievable, like it was a circus there the other night. Hayes, you were in the building. And they see how this series went in that and go, is there any chance that a free agent would be, say, no bueno to that market because of this?
Yes, for sure.
You think so?
100%. There are lots and lots of all things being equal. So, like, you know, if I could sign in Tampa for $7 million or Toronto for $9 million, okay, that's not the same. But if it's going to be put me in Tampa for $7 million or Toronto for $7 million, and I think the chance to win are about the same, because I think even though I disagree with so much of the narrative that's been out there the last 2 days about how pressure packed how Toronto is and how hard the media is and how hard the attention is, I don't buy that for a second. But you know how the NHL is. Once the reputation sort of gets out there and people start talking about these things, they tend to feed themselves. So I think there would be a whole bunch of guys that would prefer to not be in that sort of environment. Absolutely. Not because they don't like Toronto. I just think they don't like maybe the degree of the attention they may receive here if it doesn't go well.
Yeah, well,
and that's part of Toronto's reality.
Yeah, and what they're really saying is they're not even focusing as much as on how hard it is here. What they're highlighting is how easy it is somewhere else. That's what they're really saying. It's so easy everywhere else because nobody knows me and nobody cares.
It's hard
That's what
here
they're
because
saying.
they choke in big games all the time and they never win. That's why it's hard.
Exactly.
That's what no one has brought that up.
Right.
If they had gone to runs and lost in Stanley Cup Finals, it wouldn't be this difficult. But they get opportunities and they choke and lose every single time. That's why it gets ugly. And that's why it gets uncomfortable.
When you compare the start of the game, I was there. Everyone was in their seat a half an hour before puck drop. Loaded, crazy. When they came onto the ice, that place was as loud as I can remember. And I was there when the Raptors, Game 5, that's probably the loudest I've ever heard that building. When they stormed past Golden State in Game 5, they ended up losing that game. About 3 minutes left, Kawhi hit a shot. That place went insane. This was not far off. I'm not kidding. The start of the game, it was as crazy and as loud as I can ever remember. The reaction was because the team played the way they played. If they were booing and throwing jerseys in warm-up, I'd be like, this is a circus. Yeah. That's a circus.
Yeah.
It's not. It's by the end of it, it's an accumulation of everything and everything that's played out. Let me ask you this, Johnny, and we can all go around the table on this. Let's say the Panthers win the Stanley Cup. Does that soften the blow of the Leafs' loss? Does it change anything in retrospect? Let's say a month from now.
No, because it's not that they lost; it's how they lost.
Yes. Right.
And they played great and laid on the line. And God, like we were right there, and it was 2-1, and he was so close. Then you're like, yeah, maybe we lost to the best team. That might, soften the sting. But the loss is more about them and less about the opponent. So no, I don't think it matters what Florida does this year. And I know the Leafs have lost to a team that has gone to the Stanley Cup Finals several years in a row. I get it, but the way they lost this year, I think, sort of doesn't make that argument hold water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I think there were other times maybe you could look and say, it was tight and that they weren't ready or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, you're 9 years into this, and they're a veteran team. Like, all their defensemen are 30 and up.
Yeah,
Like, like
they're not-
everyone, they got a cup-winning coach behind the bench.
I think they were the fourth oldest team in the league.
Yes,
Were they not
there's
this year?
No excuse for that type of
Like that's the other thing
performance.
that gets lost in all this. This isn't a team. Now a lot of their guys are in their prime, but Johnny T will be 35 next year. Matthews and Marner, and they're like 27, 28,
Oh,
29.
they're grizzled
Like, this
veterans,
is not,
man.
this is
You're going into year 10.
early 20s, right? So this
Yeah.
isn't, that's a scenario where, I believe now. At some point, Johnny, do you think that it's addition by subtraction? Whether it just, you use that money somewhere else to have it look different, and it's not even to spite these players. It's just it's time for certain players.
They're
to
all
move on.
guilty. Like that's
Right.
It's not Marner's fault or Tavares. They're all.
Nylander was
they're
no good either.
Austin was awful. Nylander was awful. And again, a lot of veteran. Morgan wasn't any good.
Right.
McCabe was terrible. Carlo was. Wall was terrible. But it doesn't matter. But like that fourth goal was horrendous. That couldn't go. That was a backbreaker. Domi had just scored. The place is going nuts. Absolutely horrendous goal to give up. Stolarz was hurt. There's a lot of different things.
Right.
You can look at it. It's not about the individual, like one individual guy. It never has been. But the difference is these two guys, they're now UFAs. Like you don't have to ask them to do something uncomfortable. You don't have to force them out or run them out of town.
Well, they already did ask one of them.
Well, exactly,
Yeah.
Marner, and that'll be interesting as things move on. If he walks and then Rantanen wins a
Johnny, I was
Conn
saying to
Smythe,
these guys, when a team comes to you and asks you to do that basically fractures the relationship between team and player. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, money
That's
always
game
talks,
over.
But yeah, they're asking you to leave because they would pitch it as because we don't think you want to come back. If you wanted to come back, we wouldn't be asking you. But they value that other guy more than you in that moment, and that would not feel very good.
No.
And I have no problem. Hey, as you were going down this road, like, will Marner be disliked? I had no problem with him enforcing that. His wife was pregnant, about to have a baby. He doesn't want to waive his no-trade clause. Please, he earned that full no move, whatever he had, in good faith. You cannot hold. I would never hold that against him for not agreeing to waive. But I don't want to really be in a place where they don't want me. So that would be another factor in Marner's decision to want to go somewhere else. The thing that might keep him, Toronto's best chance to keep him is 8 years. It's the 8th year. That's Toronto's best leverage point at this point, and the fact that he's from here and they're good. But financially, the 8 years is what Toronto has to offer up. But I'm with you. I think if someone asked me that, I would be sour about it, and I would be more inclined to look at different options.
Oh yeah, it would be game over. I was game over as soon as I got word that they wanted to move me out of Carolina. I was like, that's it. Like, do it now. I met with Jim Rutherford in Scotiabank Arena with my dad, and I said, please just do that quickly.
Yeah.
Well, then what do you expect to hear from Tree Living then when he speaks? Like he will at some point.
Yeah.
What is he? Because again, we've referenced it a couple times, Johnny. I don't know if you saw or heard John Tavares' media, but John said, I just spoke with Tree and Berube and very optimistic. I'll be back. Like
I saw that.
Yeah, 2 days.
that.
Like it took 2 days for them to evaluate. Yes, John's just staying. Like will they be happy that he would even say that publicly? Like if I'm them, I'm like, can you just not speak?
Yeah.
Like
Like,
even if we're going to bring you
even
back,
if we've decided,
Yes.
let's pretend like we're chewing
evaluating
on it. Let's
something.
pretend
Mulling it
it's
over.
a tough decision.
Yes.
We're checking other options. We're turning over every stone and leaf, whatever. I know, and I don't have a problem with him sort of saying I want to come back.
right? Of course,
I think that's
go for
people
it.
here might be refreshing, but to say that I'm very optimistic. We spoke today. I'm like today.
Yeah.
Today's Tuesday.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
we
it was
got
2
it.
days ago.
We're working it out here. We got it all figured out. Like it's a wild scene. Yet I'm sure he's telling the truth. I would assume he's telling the truth.
Yeah, sure.
There's some
So-
things said in those conversations, though, if they happen right away, where it's like maybe you don't want to get to the truth, where it's like this is just not happening. You don't. I don't.
Out
know.
of respect to the player.
Yeah,
and
you're
all
like,
that.
you know what,
Hey,
this is something we're
talk
going to look
about
at.
it.
Maybe this gets done. Hopefully
Yep.
it gets done. And then the guy walks out of the room and it's like, delete the number.
Loud chat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Block. Yes.
that's true.
I mean, I don't expect Tree to say much. Like, what? Like, express his disappointment. He'd express his belief in most of the players. He would acknowledge that change is coming, and he's going to work through to do everything he can to make the team better. Like, I don't know, all Clicheville. Like, I don't think he's going to come and say we're going to let Mitch walk. because we're not doing this again.
Mm-hmm.
People might want to hear it. I don't believe he's going to say it. I don't think he'll say, Tavares, we got a deal done. He's coming back. We're happy to have him. It'll be way more cryptic in general and cliche. And I would be surprised if it was anything but.
Yeah.
And
Now, if he was being honest, that would be, if he was being honest and just said, if he was willing to be and just acknowledge, you know what, we're going to make changes to our most important players because we love them all. They're all excellent. But together, it's not working. And so we're not going to keep them together.
Mm-hmm.
That would be maybe about as honest as
that's what he should say if he's going to do it.
But he won't.
Committing, and again, this is if they're going to do that. There's no guarantees they will. They may not change. They may buy back into the core four thing. They might. But if you're going to do it,
don't even just stop saying
I understand
that.
you don't want to hear it.
Say
I get that you don't want to hear it.
Say that after year 9, they might keep the core.
They literally tried to sign Marner all season.
I am so sick of the term core four.
It's the worst.
I think the Quizmaster came up with it, and I honestly, I'm mad at him for it. I can't
you
stand.
think the Quizmaster invented that?
He did. I swear he did.
I don't know who did, but I'll give him credit.
He did. I remember because it started with the Leafs, and then it was like, who has the best core four in the league? And then it was like this big core four the Quizmaster and Craig Button did around the league.
Yeah, you're right. They did do
yes, and then it just became
this 24.
Core 4 under 24.
Yes,
what's more? Let's go to the store.
The Quizmaster is responsible for the
Close the door. Yeah. I could go on all
this
day.
Is the Quizmaster's fault. All of that.
Yeah, let's rhyme as much as we can.
Like, how come other teams it's not core 4? How come in Edmonton it's not the core 2? It's just so stupid, the core 4. The core 4 era.
I agree with you, yet to finish my thought on if Tree Living is committed to, we're moving off them, he should say it. He should actually allow the fans to breathe.
Yes, just say we got to go in a different direction.
We're not doing this anymore.
We got to attack this
I'm telling you today,
angle.
we're going to have a different, because, and I'm not saying he will, but he should. He should, because I do think the PR game and the messaging down there it's gotten out of control with how tight-lipped they are, how careful they are, and I've said this for years. But, and this again gets back to the pressure in the market. The market can be played like a fiddle. I've lived here my whole life. It's so easy to play this market. Austin Matthews, do you know how much people would have loved him to come out today and say, before we start, I want to address Matthew Tkachuk's comments, Brad Marchand's comments, and Paul Maurice's comments. Shut up. You're not from here. You don't know what you're talking about. It's the best hockey market in the world. I love it, and we're going to win. He dropped the mic and left. People would be like, God, I love this guy. This guy's the greatest. It would have been so easy. Can't do it. Won't do it. And I think it's not in his nature, but I also think the PR team's like, don't say anything. Again, that's just the way they run their operation.
Why would a PR person say don't say anything? That is honestly like just hand a piece of paper and say, you say that and walk out.
It would have been the easiest thing. The easiest thing. Literally, the night before, send him the script and say, memorize this thing. Go and say it, and this whole market will throw rose petals at your feet as you go to the airport and fly to Scottsdale. People will love you for it. Would have been so easy. And I would say the same thing for Brad Tree Living. If you come out on whenever you're going to come out and just say, I'm telling you right now, I'm making this promise to the team, to the fans. We're changing it, and all we care about is winning. Because it's a very thin line, Johnny, here. This isn't scorched earth and going from 58 points to a cup. They're in the second round in Game 7. Right. It's just the next level. They can't, they've been stuck here for 5 or 6 years. And it's hyper-focused, and you got to do something tough to get to that next level. But you got to have the stomach for it, and I think if you announce it, people would find it very refreshing.
I don't think you'd have any pushback from anybody if you announce anything along those lines. And also, I wouldn't mind seeing Brad Tree Living. Now, he's not a player, but this is where Matthews, dispelling the notion that it's hard to play here.
Yeah.
I think fans take a little bit of offense to that because their passion somehow makes it hard to play here.
Right.
If you came out and said, not only what you just said, but I don't want to hear about pressure. Pressure, we love it here. We love the fans. We love playing here. I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. I don't want to play someplace where, and I say this firsthand. Okay, I played in Toronto for 3 or 4 years. I got traded to Tampa. I got traded to Arizona, played there for 7 years. When I got traded back to Montreal, and I loved Arizona. My best years were there. My kids were there. I loved playing there. I was so happy to go to a market that was more invested in hockey. I loved it. I loved the idea of people caring about what you do. And putting out that kind of message as well from the organization and from your best players would be, I think, a pretty positive thing to do as well.
I agree. Don't let your fans take the heat because they're too crazy and too passionate
They're
and have
the
high
ones stopping
expectations.
anything. Get
Yes,
out
go
of
and
here.
fight for your market,
Get
fight for
out
your
of
fans.
here.
Absolutely. All right, Johnny. Good stuff, buddy. We'll do it again later in the week.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
You got it. There's Mike Johnson, TSN hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Drive the built-in Canada, fuel-efficient, fun to drive Toyota RAV4. Gas or hybrid models available. Visit mapletoyota.com. We'll come back and recap the PGA, and the picks, and all the good stuff.
Good stuff.
OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, as we know, the OverDrive PGA Picks brought to you by TaylorMade. When you need more performance, distance, and speed from your golf ball, it's time to switch. Learn more about the all-new TP5 and TP5X at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. I've been playing that TP5. I've been loving life. You know, the weather's going to be horrendous the next week. It's going to be freezing the next 3 or 4 days.
I know.
Which is very disappointing.
Yeah, well, word to my buddies, if you don't show up tomorrow, you're done for the year. It's game on.
Gotta play.
Even if it's raining?
No, there's no rain in the morning.
No, I think in the morning it's going to be fine. Yes. I hear what you're saying. After that, you're in trouble. But to recap the pick, Scotty Scheffler, my boy, I told you,
you're right.
Scheffler was a lock to win this tournament.
And Rory.
McIlroy, and we'll get into him about not speaking with the media. I think there's more to that than what meets the eye. Oh. But McIlroy didn't have himself the greatest. Taylor Pendrith, T10, our boy. We love Taylor
T5,
Pendrith.
bud. T5.
Yes, and we'll see him in a couple of weeks at the Canadian Open. PGA Picks brought to you by TaylorMade. When you need more performance, distance, and speed from your golf ball, it's time to switch. Learn more about the all-new TP5 and TP5X at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. Final hour coming up. CJ will join us. Gio will join us. And our best bets. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and up on YouTube Live.